The hegemony was once feared across the galaxy, a brutal machine of conquest, unchallenged in its dominion. Now its vast military districts lay gutted, their war factories repurposed into administrative centers. The banners of war have been replaced by the monotonous hum of bureaucracy, where once command fleets dictated the fate of entire systems. Now clerks shuffle datapads, logging trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. The transformation is absolute. The iron fist of military rule melted into a rubber stamp of compliance. But not all accept this new order so easily. Hegemony official. We were conquerors, now we are what? Accountants, paper pushers, administrator Vornax. We are survivors, and survivors adapt. The humans do not conquer with fleets, they conquer with policies. We either learn their game, or we fade into irrelevance. Vornax had once commanded legions. His name was whispered in fear. Now he sat in a cubicle, drowning in reports. Human liaison officer, Administrator Vornax, your latest assignment has arrived. The Human Integration Program has deemed your sector a priority. Vornax, let me guess, another mandatory cultural sensitivity seminar. Human liaison officer, that, and a review of the latest compliance framework. We need full participation. The humiliation was relentless. Each form, each report, each mandated meeting was a constant reminder. The hegemony was no longer in control. The latest human directive was the most audacious yet. The Galactic Species Preservation Initiative aimed to undo centuries of devastation caused by the hegemony's expansion. Entire species, deemed pests by imperial decree, were now thriving under human protection. Human biologist, the Vorsa worm, you nearly eradicated an ecosystem to get rid of it. Turns out, it's a keystone species. We had to repopulate 3 worlds just to fix your mess. Vornax, we classified them as invasive. They consumed entire agricultural zones. Human biologist, yes, because you disrupted the balance. Now, we're keeping score. A massive holographic display filled the room. Planets were ranked by their progress in restoring ecosystems. The hegemony's shame was now a public spectacle. Vornax scrolled through the rankings. His sector was dead last, below even the Krell, a species infamous for strip mining their own moons into oblivion. Vornax, we are a people of warriors, not gardeners. Human supervisor, and now you're a people of responsibility. The past doesn't excuse the present. You want to prove your worth, improve your ranking. A simple directive, but one that burned more than any battlefield defeat. The hegemony's legacy had been rewritten, not as conquerors, but as a cautionary tale. Vornax quotes, next task was his most humiliating yet. Hosting the Breltak, a species once labeled as non-sapient vermin by the hegemony. The humans, in their endless capacity for irony, had now recognized them as an intelligent civilization. Vornax, this is a mistake. We classified them correctly. They had no structured language, no industry, no human diplomat, no formal diplomacy, no detectable written record, no recognizable hierarchy. Sound familiar? That was the early human assessment too. And yet, here we are. The Breltak delegation arrived in grandeur, not as primitives, but as envoys. Their leader, adorned in ceremonial silks, met Vornax with a stare that held centuries of resentment. Brel quote, take leader, once you burned our worlds, now you beg us to sit at your table. Do you truly seek peace, or is this another deception? Vornax had no answer. For the first time in his life, he was not the conqueror, he was the one asking for acceptance. The hegemony had fallen, but its true punishment had only just begun. The future belonged not to those who ruled by force, but to those who could adapt. And for Vornax, that was the cruelest fate of all. The hegemony's former rulers now serve as reluctant hosts to those they once oppressed. Cultural exchange is no longer optional. It's mandatory, enforced by humanity. Vornax dreads his new assignment, a far cry from the Empire's former glory. Vornax is assigned to welcome the Yalar, a species the hegemony nearly wiped out. The Yalar, once dismissed as primitive, now arrive in advanced starships under human protection. Their very presence is an unspoken reminder of the hegemony's sins. Ambassador Char steps forward, his tone respectful, but his words cutting like blades. A history of suffering laid bare, worlds burned, families lost, cultures nearly erased. Vornax, trained in deflection and propaganda, finds himself at a loss for words. Helen Park, a cheerful yet unyielding human diplomat, oversees the entire exchange. Nothing will go unnoticed. Every action must align with intergalactic decency laws. Vornax quickly realizes that his usual bureaucratic tricks won't work under human scrutiny. Helen presents Vornax with a book titled Constructive Apologies and the Art of Not Committing Genocide. It's not just a suggestion, it's a requirement. Vornax must now navigate a diplomatic minefield while being graded on his sincerity. As the Yalar delegation departs, Vornax feels something unfamiliar. Guilt. The hegemony's past atrocities are no longer abstract. They have names, faces, and voices. For the first time, he wonders if redemption is even possible. Vornax stood before the assembled Yalar delegation, his carefully prepared speech suddenly feeling hollow. The chamber was vast yet suffocating, the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. His voice wavered as he spoke. On behalf of the hegemony, I extend my deepest regrets for the past injustices committed against your people. It was never our intention to. A sharp chime cut him off. Ambassador Char tilted his head, his expression unreadable. Never your intention? His mandibles clicked softly. Tell me, Administrator Vornax, when your fleet raised our homeworld, was that also unintentional? Silence. Vornax swallowed hard. The room was filled with beings that had suffered at the hands of the hegemony, and they were watching him, waiting for something real. He forced himself to continue, each word a tightrope walk over the abyss. The past cannot be undone, but we seek a future where cooperation replaces conquest. I offer more than words. I offer commitment. The Yalar exchanged glances. Their eyes held no immediate forgiveness, only the unspoken challenge. Prove it. Vornax hadn't expected the tribunal's ruling. He certainly hadn't expected this. The accused will walk the path of memory, announced Chart. You will endure as we endured. Chamber's lights dimmed. Holographic projections formed around them, reconstructing the past. Flames roared, screams echoed, and simulated gravity pulses replicated the devastation of the hegemony's orbital bombardment. Vornax stumbled as the ground beneath him buckled, his instinct screaming that this was real. Nearby, former warlords, once commanders of vast fleets, were forced to live out the horrors they had inflicted. They fell to their knees as shadowy figures loomed, reenacting the slaughter of entire colonies. Vornax turned to Helen Park, desperate for some intervention. The human diplomat merely observed with a neutral expression. Innovative, isn't it? She remarked. We call it immersive learning. Warlord cried out, clutching his head as the simulated screams intensified. Vornax clenched his jaw. This was not mere punishment. This was education, one designed to break them. The hegemony elites had imagined dull lectures, and instead, they found themselves strapped into memory, immersion devices, their own minds rewritten with artificial recollections. These are not just stories, Helen explained. adjusting the neural feedback controls. You will feel what they felt. You will understand. Vornax braced himself as the machine activated. Suddenly, he was small, hungry, helpless. The ground was cold against his skin. His mother whispered to stay silent as alien boots stomped nearby. A crash, a scream, and then nothing. The illusion faded. He was back in the chamber, gasping. "Well?" Helen asked. Vornax couldn't speak. The room was full of former conquerors, now reduced to silent, trembling figures. The humans watched, their expressions unreadable. This was their new reality. Vornax had always thought of the Yalar as backward, barely capable of interstellar travel. That illusion shattered the moment they unveiled their latest technological marvels. Their delegation arrived in ships that defied known physics, with energy matrices that pulsed with impossible efficiency. The hegemony had spent centuries claiming supremacy, yet here was a species they once deemed unworthy, now surpassing them, courtesy of human collaboration. "Cha-cha," said, his voice laced with quiet satisfaction. "Your former allies gave us what you never would." Vornax felt the power shift in the room. The hegemony was no longer the dominant force. It was an empire outclassed. Not everyone was willing to accept this humiliation. In the shadowed corridors of the former imperial palace, whispers spread. "They rewrite our history," one official murmured. "They force us to grovel. This is not justice. It is erasure." Vornax overheard the conversation but said nothing. He knew the sentiment was growing. The humans claimed neutrality, but their influence reshaped everything. Resentment simmered beneath the surface. Old warlords longing for the days when they ruled by fear. Secret messages circulated. Hushed meetings were held. The hegemony's compliance was not as absolute as the humans believed. And Vornax found himself trapped between two futures, one of submission, the other of rebellion. The first failures seemed like accidents, malfunctioning translator systems, sudden power outages, a slight miscalculation in gravity controls that sent dignitaries tumbling. Then the disruptions escalated. Diplomatic gatherings collapsed into chaos as automated security systems inexplicably targeted Yalar officials. The GSPI's main database was compromised, wiping critical records of war reparations. Protests broke out, fueled by misinformation campaigns designed to reignite old animosities. Vornax pieced it together too late. In a hidden chamber deep within the administrative complex, a meeting was taking place. The old warlords had found their answer: sabotage. If they could not undo the hegemony's fall, they would ensure no one else thrived. As Vornax stood outside the chamber's sealed doors, he realized the truth. Some within the hegemony would rather see the galaxy burn than accept their place in this new order. The last stand of the old hegemony. Dark corridors hum with the low murmur of conspirators. A hidden chamber, untouched by human reforms, serves as the last refuge of the old ways. Vornax. The empire is dead, but some refuse to lay its bones to rest. A circle of former elites huddle around an outdated console, their eyes glimmering with desperation. Their plan is bold, reckless even. The GSPI database, the crowning achievement of human-enforced justice, is their target. Hardliner leader. "We may not hold the galaxy, but we will hold its memory. Rewrite history, and we rule again." Encrypted viruses, sophisticated worms, digital ghosts engineered to erase all records of past atrocities. If the galaxy forgets, the hegemony lives once more. Cyber warfare versus humanity. A critical miscalculation. Servers deep within the GSPI hum with life, monitored by layers of human AI, each designed by the paranoid minds of a species forged in digital war. The virus slips through firewalls, corrupting data. For mere seconds, the conspirators believe they have won. Then the failsafe triggers, a single line of faulty code, an arrogance born of a species that had never fought a foe like humanity. Instead of erasing history, the virus activates the GSPI emergency response protocol. Entire archives unlock, a cascade of truth,
raw and unforgiving, floods every communication channel in the galaxy, unveiling the truth. A broadcast to the star screens flicker in homes, government halls, and starships. Billions of eyes widen in horror. The galaxy watches as long-buried footage emerges. Charred planets, broken cities, entire species screaming in the dark. A Yolar elder, eyes heavy with time, watches his people's suffering unfold before an audience that can no longer look away. Yolar ambassador, they called us animals. The animals remember. Outrage spreads like wildfire. The hegemony's sins are no longer whispers in the dark. They are now eternal. Vornax's crossroads, loyalty or progress. Vornax sits in silence, the weight of history pressing against his chest. The choice before him is clear, yet unbearable.
The conspirators turned to him, hardliner leader. The hegemony stood for order. Will you let humans reduce it to ash? Helen Park, ever watchful, meets his gaze. Helen Park, order means nothing without justice. Your people must choose, live in truth, or die in lies. For the first time, Vornax does not see a conqueror in her eyes. He sees a mirror, reflecting the future he must embrace. He makes his choice. The betrayal that saved the hegemony. Security teams storm the conspirators' hideout, guided by Vornax's intel. Arrests are swift. Resistance is futile. Vornax, narration, a final betrayal. But this time, for the right cause. The old hegemony does not fall in war. It crumbles under the weight of its own truths. GSPI official, the tribunal awaits. You will answer to the galaxy. A sentence worse than prison. Re-education begins. White walls, bright screens, a classroom filled not with children, but with the former architects of oppression. A course title flashes across the display. Constructive apologies and the art of not committing genocide. A disgraced warlord shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Helen Park smirks, handing him a tablet. Helen Park, Lesson 1. So you tried to eradicate a species, now what? Vornax exhales, watching the last vestiges of the old empire fade into irrelevance. Not with chains, not with executions, but with education, human style. The galaxy will remember, and for the first time in history, the hegemony will too write something, with a sweeping view of the galaxy, shimmering against the darkness of space. A once feared hegemony capital world now bustles with a diverse mix of species, its cold, imperial architecture softened by new life. 1 year ago, the hegemony's grip on the galaxy was shattered. Where once they ruled with unchecked dominance, now they share their cities, their halls, and their power with those they once oppressed. The Galactic Cultural Exchange Program is no longer a fragile experiment. It is the foundation of a new era. Former hegemony worlds, once synonymous with cruelty, are now home to embassies, trade centers, and celebrations of species once deemed insignificant. Not all accept the change willingly, but the tide has shifted. The old ways are gone. The galaxy will not turn back. Vornax, once a hegemony bureaucrat, now wears the insignia of a GSPI compliance officer. He walks through a vast hall, his expression unreadable as he inspects reports from former hegemony officials. Vornax had spent his life upholding the hegemony's rule. Now, he enforces a new law, the law of accountability. No more vague apologies, no more bureaucratic loopholes. Those who once dictated the fate of entire species must now adhere to intergalactic ethical standards. He enters a council chamber where former hegemony elites sit, awaiting assessment. Vornax, coldly, your petitions for reinstatement have been reviewed. Some of you will be permitted to serve in advisory roles. Others will remain under probation, adapt, or face permanent administrative dissolution. The officials murmur, but none dare protest too loudly. They know there is no escape from this new reality. A panoramic view of the Yolar homeworld, lush forests, vibrant oceans, and towering spires rising toward the sky. Where there was once ruin, life has returned. Once marked for extermination, the Yolar's homeworld now flourishes. It is a testament to survival, resilience, and the power of justice. In a grand plaza, a delegation of humans and other galactic representatives stand beside Yolar leaders. A plaque is unveiled. Yolar Elder, to those who sought to erase us, we are still here. And to those who stood by, watching in silence, remember this world and what was nearly lost. The inscription reads, "And ever again," a broadcast studio filled with representatives from across the galaxy. At the center, a panel of former hegemony rulers forced to face their past victims. Moderator, smirking, "Welcome everyone to today's special session. Oops, our bad, a galactic symposium on not committing war crimes." Laughter ripples through the audience. The former hegemony rulers shift uncomfortably. Victim representative, "You called our people savages. You burned our history. Now, in the spirit of intergalactic cooperation, please explain, at what point did you realize you were the bad guys?" The panelists hesitate. No scripted response will save them here. The truth at last must be faced. A fleet of GSPI ships glides through space, their insignias visible to every world they pass. The hegemony fell, not through war, but through the weight of its own sins, and the galaxy will not forget. Cut to Helen Park, standing before a council. "Helen Park, this is not the end of our work. There will always be those who seek power at the expense of others. To them, we offer a simple message. Progress is mandatory. Resistance is futile." The screen fades to black. The future of the galaxy is uncertain, but one thing is clear. History will never repeat itself. Write something. A new memorial stands at GSPI headquarters, a testament to a changed galaxy. A vast obsidian monument towers over the heart of the Galactic Senate Plaza. Alien dignitaries and former hegemony officials stand in silence, their gazes locked onto the inscription carved into its surface. The words are unmistakably human, bold, unapologetic, and impossible to ignore. "We're not saying 'told you so,' but we absolutely told you so." Below it, another line, equal parts sarcasm and necessity. Next mandatory seminar, Diplomacy 101. Let's try talking before the laser cannons, next time. The air hums with subdued tension. The message is clear. The galaxy has changed, and it will never return to what it was. Once an enforcer of the old regime, now a reluctant witness to the new era. Vornak stands at the edge of the gathering, his posture stiff. His uniform, once adorned with the insignia of the hegemony, now bears the neutral crest of the GSPI. The weight of history presses against him, heavier than any ceremonial badge. Watches as the latest GSPI initiative unfolds, a coalition of former war worlds transformed into centers of learning, diplomacy, and trade. Once these planets had been symbols of oppression, now they stood as proof of what the galaxy could become. Is this justice, redemption, or just another layer of human bureaucracy, strangling history in paperwork and procedures? The question gnaws at him, unanswered. Helen Park appears, training manual in hand, ever the embodiment of human pragmatism. Helen Park steps up beside him, arms crossed, an unmistakable smirk on her face. She holds a thick data pad labeled Intergalactic Ethics and Reform, Volume 27. "We're making progress," she muses, scrolling through the latest reports. "But don't get cocky. There's always another mess to clean up." Vornax exhales sharply, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Park shrugs, handing him the data pad. "Consider it light reading. It'll help you keep up. The hegemony is gone. The GSPI reigns. The stars hold a new order. Across the galactic core, the remnants of the old order crumble. The hegemony's banners,
once draped over entire worlds, have been reduced to artifacts in museums. In their place, the GSPI thrives, shaping a future where survival isn't just about power, it's about understanding, cooperation, and adaptation. The message is clear: progress is mandatory, resistance is futile. And humanity, for all its flaws, knows how to teach.